What I have for y'all today is the Ivory Tower Aezus, a production hypercar which was developed specifically for the Crew Motorfest. I absolutely love this car, so much that I dropped $17 in crew credits in order to pick one up. Now this one here is the Ivory Tower Aezus Stealth Edition. This was a limited run of 10,000 units, awarded only to those who placed platinum during the spy thriller Motorfest Live Summit. Yes, this is my limited run Aezus that I won. And if there is a moral of the story here, it's that you should never sell yourself short, because being tenacious can lead to greatness, while saying I could never in a million years will just lead to you sabotaging yourself in the long run. We try to be educational here on the Madeline Aria channel, but no, there's actually a reason we are talking about this car today. Back on the 27th of March, Ubisoft Magazine released an exclusive interview with this man right here, Jeremy Sachot, one of the lead designers at Ivory Tower. This man has an impressive career under his belt. He interned with BMW, Alpine, and Renault. He worked for W Motors in Dubai on a concept car for the Chinese company Iconic, and he's been with Ivory Tower for the past 4 years as they got operations on their Motorfest exclusive production line off the ground. So a bit of context here. Before Ivory Tower, there was Proto. Proto worked exclusively on concept cars, boats, and planes during the Crew 2's run. This included vehicles like the Lucky One, which you might remember from a few videos I've done. Vehicles under the Proto moniker need not follow the rules of real-world design because, well, most of them prioritized aesthetic over actual performance. But with Ivory Tower as a production brand, it's a bit of a different story. And that's where this interview is really fascinating to me. Sachot went on record about the formation of the IVT brand and its engineering principles. These new vehicles are designed not just for dazzling the Motorfest itself, but also to accommodate the natural processes which govern the driving experience while on the island. He mentions something known as in-game flex, where mechanical parts on the vehicles can change their shape dynamically in accordance with the forces acting upon them. Other IVT vehicles, such as the Falcon Off-Roader and the R07 Grand Prix car, utilize this same flex to improve suspension travel or adaptive downforce, respectively. The Aezus, meanwhile, can do both. It is designed to maximize contact with the road at ultra-high speed while simultaneously minimizing impact forces from uneven road terrain. But what's even cooler than that is the fact that several aspects of the chassis and bodywork are designed to be modular, vastly improving the range of parts available for customization. And remember, all of this is hinged on the rules which govern movement in the virtualized Oahu. Predefined equations for things like gravity, air resistance, friction, the kind of forces you'd likely have to deal with just as much in real life. And where life imitates art is when we can use games like the Crew Motorfest for simulating how specific forces might act. Now, there is one more piece to the puzzle, and it's something that was also touched upon during the interview. It's how generative artificial intelligence may play a role in future design work. So, the IVT Aezus was developed over a 6-month period, and Sachot explains during the interview that no AI work was used this time around during the conceptualization process. And his approach to how generative AI should be used in the future is one I can definitely get behind. He believes that what humans possess over AI are the ability to continuously innovate through intuitive choices, to deliberate decision-making, and to craft a narrative rather than merely exploit, mix, and aggregate existing elements. There is a lot to unpack in this statement. Sachot hits the nail on the head in asserting that generative AI is an aggregation tool, because for all intents and purposes, that is what it is. All things which are represented digitally are just an amalgamation of inputs or inspectable elements, and what AI does well is rapidly and consistently combining elements and inputs to form an array of end products which humans can thereby interpret, understand, and apply value to. Ergo, AI presents work without context, humans give it that context. Large language modeling adds to that by allowing the generation process to be artificially curated so that the human has a narrower, albeit more focused, set of variations to review. So let's apply this logic to the design process of the Aezus, again noting that AI was not used this time around. It all began with a series of sketches modeling various parts and their configurations. So in the article, you'll see mock-ups of nearly a dozen exterior styling views showing different variations of bodywork, lighting assembly, what have you. Then you have like 9 sketches of possible driver's seat designs, 10 sketches of possible steering wheel designs, 6 sketches of cockpit designs. You get the idea. What AI would be able to do is to generate 100 or even 1,000 individual sketches using the parameters given to it by the human at the helm. The AI can also assign logic to the sketches and put them through simulations to determine their pass-fail characteristics when subjected to various criteria. Now, once all that is done, it's up to the human who is at the helm to decide on which variants will be utilized and to do the final render works themselves. And that is something the industry on the whole is turning toward. There's a really good documentary, The Future of Auto Manufacturing, AI-Driven Design, that details this entire process in much more detail. And what's amazing is the initial generative designs do not have to be constrained by human-based real-world manufacturing challenges, because these parts can literally be fabricated from the ground up with all of the shapework just built into them. Whereas in the past, humans would have to start with a stock shape and then carve it down the sides. And that's what Sachot kind of leaves off with, that AI will become nearly indispensable as a supplementary tool. So that's really the ins and outs of the physical design and modeling. I think the last thing I want to talk about with this car is its performance selection under the hood. As had been mentioned previously, Sachot got his start with BMW and Alpine. If you didn't know, Alpine is a vehicle modification company who specialize particularly in customizing BMWs, though they also do other brands like Audi, Lamborghini, and McLaren. Sachot mentions near the end of the interview that the sound profile is comparable to that of a 5-liter, naturally aspirated V10 engine. Now, we don't know exactly what engine is under the hood of the Aezus, but we can infer that it is something along the lines of the BMW S85 V10 engine. This engine was originally built for the BMW M5, in particular the E60 and E61 models from 2005 to 2010. It was rated for approximately 500 horsepower, and it gave the M5 a top track speed of 190 miles per hour, though on the road that was electronically limited to 155. Now, I can't say for sure what sorcery Ivory Tower is using here, but if that is the engine they are repurposing for this car, the new figures are incredibly impressive. As bone stock, the Aezus has a rated 800 horsepower and a top speed of 224 miles per hour. The power-to-weight ratio is about 0.27, which puts it in line with the McLaren P1 in terms of raw performance. That being said, with aftermarket performance parts, this can go up to 1,320 horsepower for a power-to-weight ratio of 0.44, making it nearly as powerful as the Koenigsegg 1-to-1 Agera. So yeah, I think I've sung its praises enough for one video. Major props to Mr. Sachot for coming up with such an amazing car. And we didn't even talk about the interior, did we? Like, just from driving it around, you can see how techy and sophisticated it is. Perhaps you'll just have to take it for a spin yourself in the Crew Motorfest. Though, not this one, obviously, since this Stealth Edition is mine, after all. Come to think of it, do I really need 2 of the same car? Man, they really should have given us an auction house or something.